Better turn my mic on. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another TFE Live. This is our show number 266. My goodness, Julia, before you know it, it's going to be 300 shows.
It will.
How are you?
I'm all right.
Julia, of course, my co-host and our coordinating producer, watching for your comments as we go forward on this, the 21st day of February 2020. We have a very special guest standing by in the UK, in Southampton, who we will join, or have her join us in a moment. In the meantime, we want to say our usual thing, Julia.
Yes. Please take this opportunity to like, share, and subscribe. Makes a lot of difference, and there's some interesting things you wouldn't want to miss on today.
Indeed, and you can also join us via Patreon, become a patron over at our main website, sailingillustrated.com, and we would deeply appreciate any support you can give us, especially the sharing, the liking, but a few bucks via Patreon is great. And also, if you're so inclined, you can also join us via PayPal. Now, we've set that up. You can go to TFE's Lives, our Sailing Illustrated PayPal page, and you can contribute directly if you'd rather do that, paypal.me/Sailing Illustrated. Okay, very much appreciated, all the support we're getting, and we're getting lots and lots of it. Let's get into the show. We'll do, before we bring our very special guest in, we'll do this day in history. And 21st of February, 1896. Julia, any idea what happened on this day in 1896?
I don't.
This is an obscure one, and I'll give you another hint. It's thanks to another one, thanks to Hamish Ross. Does this help? Probably not. Any of you watching? We're watching the comments.
Yeah.
Dick Loomis is watching from La Mesa. Mark Weiland is watching. There's a new name. Hi, Mark. Anybody know what happened in 1896 on this day? It's related to this yacht. This is the yacht Valkyrie 3, which was the challenger in the 1895 Cup in September of 95, AC9, the 9th America's Cup.
Uh-huh.
And, of course, it was owned by this gentleman. He was the syndicate head. You know who that is?
Nope.
Wyndham Quinn, the 4th Earl of Dunraven, the Irish peer. And he challenged both in the 8th Cup and again in the 9th Cup. Didn't win either one, but there was some sparks flying, particularly in the 2nd Cup in the 1895 Cup. Lord Dunraven was this guy was a cool guy. Oxford graduate, cavalry officer, war correspondent, adventurer, big game hunter, politician, racehorse owner, and yachtsman, a fully qualified yacht captain and helmsman. He did much to encourage yacht racing and the advance of yacht design. He was also a prolific yacht owner with myriad small racing yachts, big class racers, yada, yada. In 1893, he challenged New York Yacht Club for the Cup, and he was the one who negotiated got them to agree to move the course. It used to be, they had a lot of fiddle farting around. The New Yorkers said, well, if it's good enough for the Royal Yacht Squadron to make us sail around the Isle of Wight with the shoals and the currents and the tides and so on, we can have an inshore course as well and make the challenger have to navigate our waters. Well, he convinced them that inshore course was not fair. And from that point on, only an ocean, let's reading the last sentence in that second paragraph, only an ocean course free from headlands and largely clear of shoals was used for the races, leveling the playing field, at least in that respect. So he didn't win in 1893, but he came back 2 years later, and this from the America's Cup Hall of Fame and their press release, because they have put him in. I'll tell you about that in a moment. And then he caught the America's Cup bug, the fever, because he returned in 1895 with another Watson design, Valkyrie 3, a pioneer of the modern Challenger. That's what we showed you a minute ago, Valkyrie 3, that was much better adapted to local racing conditions. But the race series descended into acrimony by misunderstandings and disagreements between the competitors. Briggs Elwell is watching. He probably knows all this history by heart. The spectator fleet had grown to unmanageable proportions and was perceived as a major problem by the challenger. A minor collision in the second race, the defender won the first race, and Valkyrie 3 then, in the minor collision in the second race, was found to be at fault. It was a windward leeward coming off the starting line. In Dunraven, because the race committee, the New York Yacht Club race committee in those days, was also the protest committee. Does that seem fair? Well, it didn't to him, but it was nonetheless. And, of course, that was the saying. That didn't change until after the 1970 match, when there was a controversy over the protest between Intrepid and Australia. So it was Gretel, wasn't it? It was Gretel 2, maybe. And the spectator fleet back in 1895, though, was causing a huge problem. And the Earl of Dunraven, Lord Dunraven, after this collision, he withdrew from the series. So he went down 2-0, but he made, as you see here in this last sentence, this is nice language from the America's Cup Hall of Fame. Thereafter, he made increasingly intemperate accusations, and the contentious match made headlines for all the wrong reasons.
Lovely.
So guess what?
What?
He went back to the UK and basically accused, I'm not kidding, accused the New York Yacht Club of cheating, and used that word, and it was very strong language and not much appreciated by the New York Yacht Club. So much so that New York Yacht Club, at their 44th Street clubhouse in New York City, which existed by then, actually, they had not moved into this clubhouse quite yet. They didn't move into this clubhouse until the early 1900s. So this is still 1895, was it? 1896. They had, the New York Yacht Club, they appointed a commission, and they had, and he agreed to come over and sit before the commission and defend his accusations of cheating. This is actually the cover of Harper's Weekly magazine, one of the biggest magazines in the U.S. at the time, in the world, in fact. The 11th January 1896 cover, and of an artist's rendition, obviously, of this hearing. And it went on for 4 or 5 days. This drew headlines even more so because of this, obviously, of this discussion,
right.
This hearing. This is from the Library of Congress, by the way, that image. So they investigated Lord Dunraven's charges, and long story short, they published a report on this day in 1896.
Wow.
A report, this is the Committee of New York Yacht Club, exonerating the New York Yacht Club and saying some pretty nasty things in this report about Lord Dunraven, and there was acrimony for decades and decades. Finally, more recently, after this report was issued and everything settled down, more than 100 years later, Lord Dunraven was inducted into the America's Cup Hall of Fame, which happened, that induction ceremony happened to be held at the New York Yacht Club. Also inducted at that time was the Swiss billionaire Ernesto Bertarelli. Some people say they deserve to be inducted at the same time, but I don't think anyone ever accused Ernesto of cheating. Certainly we never did. We just thought that his yacht club, his Challenger of Record Yacht Club that he self-selected for the 2010 match was not correct. So in any event, a long story short, Lord Dunraven, on this day, the report from the New York Yacht Club that was a big, big deal in the world at that time, and arguably has been shaping in some ways the America's Cup history because of the acrimony and the controversy, and maybe not shaping it, but reflecting it more than anything else. Okay, that's this day in history. Let's get to our guest. Our guest is as you probably all know, we promoted, is Lily Lijia, Golden Lily Xu. She is standing by in Southampton in the UK. Welcome, Lily. How are you?
Hello, Tom. Also, hello to everyone who's watching the show now. I'm Xu Lijia. If you find that name difficult to remember, you can just call me Lily.
Xi. Thank you very much. As I told you when we were doing the tech check, I had a Mandarin tutor for something like 10 years, and I can't remember much more than saying thank you in Mandarin. What other languages do you speak?
I speak Mandarin as well as Shanghainese, the local language which the rest of the Chinese find difficult to understand, and they quite often joke us speaking like Japanese. But vice versa, I don't understand Cantonese. So I always struggle to understand what the Hong Kong people or people in Guangdong province are talking about.
But you can read because the characters are roughly the same in Japanese and most of the Chinese languages. And they're really languages, not even dialects, right? But a lot of the characters are the same.
Yeah, the character, we have a simple Chinese, and the Hong Kong people, they are writing traditional Chinese, but we can read without any problem. For Japanese, any character that looks very similar to Chinese, we can understand because their meanings are very, very similar, but we couldn't understand by hearing or listening.
Yeah, there's something like 85 cities in Japan of over 5 million people, and maybe it's probably more than that now. And I have been to Shanghai, and I was shocked to discover when I took a Formula One driver there for a promotion after, well, I won't get into all that, but we had a massive promotion. I mean, this is a Finnish guy, Mika Hakkinen, blonde, white guy in Shanghai, and it was just... I mean, it was scary almost how excited people were about this Formula One driver. And China's very crazy about Formula One. And the Chinese Grand Prix has just been postponed or been moved, actually, because of the coronavirus, which we will talk about in a sec. But I was astonished to find out when we got there that, and I had a translator, an interpreter with me who spoke Cantonese and Mandarin, but he didn't know that there's also Shanghaiese.
Yeah, that's correct. And I think for Shanghainese people, we will try to speak as much Mandarin as possible. So, for example, in school, while studying, we always speak Mandarin. But while back home with my parents or friends, we tend to relax a little bit and then just chat in Shanghainese. And then also, Tom, you're right. The Chinese are a big fan of Formula One. Unfortunately, the one in Shanghai in April has been postponed or cancelled.
Well, not only are you a superb sailor, and I guess I'm showing the picture of the cover of your book, and called Golden Lily, and so you're an author and a podcaster and a broadcaster. We'll talk about all that in a moment, but you've got this book, and tell us
I won't say myself as an author. I just wrote a book of my story, so it's an autobiography.
So tell us a little bit about your story. How did you get into sailing? What classes? How did you win the gold medal?
I first started swimming at the age of 5. And at that time, just 2 hours training after school. And then when I was 10 years old, the Optimist coach from Shanghai sailing team approached to my parents and say, would you like to have your daughter try out sailing? And my parents come back and asked me. I said, why not? So in 1997, during the summer holiday, I went to the suburb of Shanghai and tried out the Optimist class together with other hundreds of kids. We have 2 weeks training camp together. And after 2 weeks, I brought back the good news that I was one of the 3 girls that had been selected by the Shanghai Optimist sailing team. But somehow my parents, they don't appear very happy. They seem a bit upset. I don't understand why. But later on, I realized because if I choose the sport of sailing, that means they won't be able to see me very often. Because unlike swimming, I can still go back every day. If I opt to sailing, that means I can only go back home once a year for about 1 or 2 weeks holiday.
Once a year, so you'd be training at a camp someplace, presumably on the coast. Where was that training camp?
After trying out sailing in the summer of 2027, we moved to the southern China called Hainan province, and the city called Haikou, because we try to do the winter training in warmer areas. That's also where the national teams, Chinese national teams, as well as other provincial team. They are training now in Haikou province. And then after the winter training, for example, 3 to 5 months, we start our racing season. Well, I say racing season. We only have 2 nationals a year, national championships. And but we moved to the place to train where the nationals will be held, and after the national championships, we will have our 1 or 2 week holiday where I was able to see my parents.
And what age did you start doing that?
10.
10, and you went from optimist, won championships. I didn't even put the list in; it's so long. And then you won. You moved to the Europe dinghy for a while, didn't you?
Yeah, after winning the Asia Games in Busan 2002, as well as 2 world champion in Optimist World female class, female fleet. And then I switched to Europe and sailed for 2 years. And because in China, we have these national games 1 year after the Olympic year. So we didn't switch immediately after 2004, I think, games, where the rest of the world, you all switched immediately to laser radio. As soon as that news was released, that radio will replace Europe. But we sailed to Europe for another year. It was not until the end of 2005 that I finally started to sail laser radio. But ironically, within 8 months, I won the World Championship in LA, which I still find it difficult to believe. I would say I was quite lucky at that time.
And then you went on and, of course, won the gold in 2012 at Weymouth in the laser radio, and published this book. I want to go look at this book. And Ben Ainslie was kind enough to write the foreword on the cover, Asia's first dinghy sailing gold medalist. And not only China's, but Asia's first dinghy sailing gold medalist. Quote, an enthralling account of Lily's life. I commend this book to anyone interested in sailing sport or the differences between East and West, Sir Ben Ainslie. And I haven't read the book. I'm trying to get a copy. Where can we get a copy of this, Lily?
You can buy it on Amazon, both in the US and UK.
Okay. Well, we'll get a hold of that and have a read. Thank you. That. Congratulations. In the meantime, you've had an injury. I mean, to tell us, first of all, you started out with you've got limited sight in one of your eyes, right? And also in your one or both of your ears, you've got some hearing deficit, right? Hearing loss? And this was at a young age. So you've overcome that?
I was born like that. My left eye can barely see anything very clear, so I mainly use my right eye. My right eye is fine. And my hearing, both ears lost half of the hearing compared with ordinary people. So quite often I need to wear hearing aid.
Well, those are fancy Bluetooth earbuds that you've got in now, and I think you're the first. We've had a lot of guests on the show, including John Emmett, as you probably know, and I think you're the first one who is so modern that you're using Bluetooth earbuds instead of old-fashioned wired headphones. Or Julia's got her headset on.
Yeah,
Julia, we got to get you to earbuds, maybe.
Oh, they never stay in my ears. I know.
I know what you mean. So you've overcome those. Was that part of the thing? Having those disabilities, having those challenges, was that part of what motivated you to work so hard in sailing and toward a gold medal?
You're right, Tom. And I think it was only while sailing on the sea that I feel so much freedom, as well as I can be myself and do things I really enjoy. Because to be honest, when I was little, I quite often been told off or being laughed at by my peers. Because, for example, if I didn't hear anything, I say, pardon, can you repeat again? And they just make fun of me. So gradually I become more and more introvert, and instead of communicate with my teammates, which I struggle with, I just use all my spare time after training to study as well as reading books.
Wow. Now, since the 2012 Olympics, and here's you winning the gold in 2012, you trained also for Rio, right?
Yeah. Rio wasn't something I planned for because after London, I was already too injured to carry on. So I tried to recover doing some physiotherapy. And that's also when I started to apply to study in the UK. So after the National Games in 2013, I went to do a series of examinations for English tests before being able to apply to study in Southampton University for a pre-master as well as the master degree. But it was not until 1 year before Rio that I suddenly feel, wow, my body is very fresh and pain-free. Maybe I can try another time. So that's when I decided to make my third Olympic campaign to Rio.
So you did Rio, but you had some severe shoulder problems coming out of Rio, and you had some surgery, right?
Yeah, 1 month before Rio Olympics, I wasn't able to sail, wasn't able to do any upper body training. And all I can do is my lower strength as well as cycling to keep my endurance. And 1 month later, my shoulder is still in pain. So that's when the doctor injected cortisone injection to my shoulder, so hopefully I can pain free to finish the event. So I was pain free for the first 2 days, but unfortunately from the third days onwards, I just wasn't able to sheet in and sheet out, especially when we were racing outside the bay. We have two different venues. If people are familiar with the Rio Olympics, we have two different racing areas. And so after Rio, actually, I was still quite motivated to campaign for Tokyo 2020 Games. And that's why I carried on tried to sort out my injuries. And for the first 6 months, after doing a series of physiotherapy, both utilizing the Western or Chinese traditional method, I was still in pain. So that's when I decided to opt for operation. So in May and June 2017, I had my left and right shoulder operation done respectively. So that's just a keyhole, 4 holes on each shoulder. So I have 8 holes on both of my shoulders.
The keyhole surgery.
Unfortunately, 1 year later, when I was hoping that I can be fully recovered and come back to sail and train full time, my shoulder's still in pain. And then that time when I went back to the hospital and then consulted my doctors again, and MRI shows my AC joint is still very, very inflamed. And this time they suggest me to do open operation, and so they can cut more bones in the AC joint and create a bit more space instead of rubbing with each other.
So are you going to do that, or have you said, no, enough's enough?
At the moment, I'm still saying no, but a lot of people are trying to persuade me to take it because it's sort of not only limited my daily activity. So doing housework, I'm fine. And whenever I travel with luggages, I need to ask for help. And I don't want to have myself operated again, but maybe at one stage I still need to do so. But the point is, when I was suggested to do the open operation again, that's when I decided maybe I should stop thinking about campaign and then just live an normal person's life. And that's why I went back to university. Instead of Southampton Uni, I transferred to Solent Uni, still in Southampton, because I want to study media. So my major is sports broadcast journalism, because I feel if I can be in a media role, then I would still be able to be involved in the sailing world, as well as still match with my dream of promoting sailing in China. Because in China, we don't have any sailing specialized reporters or journalists. So here I am. I graduated last October, and now as a sports media freelancer.
Well, and I've looked into that. We'll talk some more about your media career in a sec. But there's one other thing I thought we should talk about, and that is this photo I found online. And I knew that you had been selected as the flag bearer for your team, the entire national team, the Chinese team, not just the sailing team, after your gold medal in 2012. That was quite an honor.
Yeah, because probably China feels it's such a big achievement of us Chinese sailor to win a gold medal in a very strong maritime country in UK. Is sort of like if a British table tennis player win a gold in China. That's our national sport. So I think apart from my nation's very happy of winning a sailing medal in the UK, they also want to use my story to motivate more young people in China to conquer all the difficulty and setbacks.
Well, it's a very impressive thing, and we're all so proud of you and what you've done in the sport. And we got, Julia, 100 plus people have been on here watching. I mean, cumulatively way more than that. But Henry Reese is saying, great lady, Tom, good to have her on. Regards from the banks of the River Loire in Burgundy. So he's in France. Bernie Stegmeyer, Lily, who is the Dean of Yachting in Switzerland, longtime friends, former senior serious official in World Sailing when it was IYRU and ISAF, he says, wow, she's an impressive woman, respect. And Julia, there have been a lot more comments like that.
Yes, all the way through. Very, very positive.
Yeah, cool stuff. So let's go back now to your career. You're already a podcaster, and you've got, 3 podcasts going?
Yeah, I think my main audience is to the Chinese. So I write, I make videos as well as photos, and then trying to keep the Chinese posted of what's happening throughout the world in our sport. And I also have two Chinese podcasts. One is Lily's Sports Podcast, which interview all kind of sports of Chinese world champion as well as Olympic champion. That's released or broadcasted once a week through Chinese sports radio as well as all the other social media. And the other is Lily's Sailing Podcast in Chinese as well. But apart from all those Chinese media work, I feel want to do something in English as well. So I think maybe I can do a laser sailing podcast in return for this wonderful class, this wonderful boat that I've sailed, and so many people enjoy it. And then by sharing some of the experience from those top sailors, maybe they can further motivate more young sailors to continue their journey.
Cool. Well, I've listened to them. You've done 6 or 7 now in Lily's Laser podcast, and your latest one was with Pablos Contidas. Is that right?
Yeah.
I have the latest one here in this slide, right?
Yes, correct.
Well, it's we know something about podcasting. We share that experience, and the next step, Lily, and it's a big step, but it's a cool step, is to do the video podcast, which is what this is, a live video podcast. When will you get the live video? We'll help you do it. We'll help you do it.
Yes.
Oh, really?
Yeah. No,
I would
seriously.
love to.
It's so cool. People like live, and you're such a great personality and so much experience. And you now, as a young person, or younger certainly than we are, know all of and there's so many laser people on here right now. And it's the cool class. It's one of the, the great classes in the modern history of the sport, in the Olympic class. So it's great to see you on here doing this. Let me read some of the other comments here. Julia, do you want to do that?
Yeah. Pedro Fuenexeter says, out of adversity, challenges, problems comes opportunity. Lily is inspirational.
Yeah, exactly. And there was another comment.
Baton Rouge says, Lily is a reminder that sailing is full of cool people, as TFE always says.
Exactly. That was the comment I was trying to get back to. Thank you for that. And then tell us, let's switch slides here and go to this one, because you're also doing some broadcasting for our sport already.
Yeah, for this Tokyo Olympics, I will work with some of the television as well as other online platforms. Personally, I got the accreditation card as a sailing journalist from World Sailing, and then I will probably do some commentary for Chinese television as well. Apart from those, I will also carry on with my exclusive interview with all the upcoming Olympic champion in other sports. So we'll be very busy in Tokyo this summer.
Cool. Well, send me links. Let me know how we can use it, because I'll put it on Sailing Illustrated, either in our regular Tuesday or Friday shows, but maybe on the main website, because I think you're doing a terrific job, and I think you're going to do even more. And it's great for our sport to have more.
No problem.
Terrific.
Happy to share.
Thank you. And the fact that World Sailing has given you a credential, it's at least they can make some decisions that are correct, right, Julia?
Right.
they've made some. I won't ask you to comment on that, Lily. They've made some incredibly bad decisions lately. But speaking of videos, and you are also quite good and quite active on social media. I played this video on Tuesday to promo the show. I'm going to play it again. Talk us through this, and why did you do this video?
Yeah, at the moment, because my nation's suffering from this coronavirus outbreak, so almost everyone's suggested to stay at home and then not to go out unless very necessary. And I think the majority of the Chinese don't really have the habit to regular exercise or going to the gym. But now, after being confined at home for a whole month, people feeling, one is feeling bored and the other is gaining a lot of weight by just eating and sitting. So people start to pay more attention of exercise at home. So every week now I produce 1 or 2 videos of all kinds of exercises to suggest the Chinese they can do at home. So hopefully they can still keep healthy during this period and also go back to normal life as soon as the virus is all solved.
Cool. Well, do you know the British diver Tom Daly?
Yes.
Have you met him?
No.
Because he's also doing exercise videos. He's doing food, and I think that would be great for you to. You're already doing the exercise type videos, but you the food stuff he's doing is actually pretty cool too. So we got to get somebody to introduce you to him if you've not met him, and go on his YouTube channel and see what he's doing as an Olympian.
Sure.
And
thanks for your suggestion. I'll have a look.
He's a cool guy. But you also commented when you posted this, you talked about the Chinese sailors, and I know John Emmett, he was in Melbourne, and we were all concerned because none of the Chinese sailors were able to go to Melbourne for the Worlds in the NACRA 17 and the 49 and the FX, nor for the lasers. Where are those Chinese sailors? Are they able to train? And what do you think is going to happen now with the coronavirus?
Yeah, at the moment, all my national teammates or sailors, they are training in Haikou, which is in the southern China, a small island. Not a small, quite big island. And now they can not fly out, for example, to do the World Championship in Melbourne. I think for some classes, maybe it's just a matter of missing a World Championship. But also we missed the opportunity to qualify for the Tokyo in some classes like 49er FX as well as NACRA and laser standard, for example. So I don't know what's going to happen for them. And some of my teammates, my good friend, they say to me, they lost their motivation because they've been training whole winter without doing any event or regattas.
Tough. Well, it's affecting a lot of people, and particularly the Chinese sailors. So we're, our hearts are out to all of them. It's just a terrible situation,
Yeah.
and to say nothing of all the people who, as you say, your friends and family in Shanghai. Tell us about what you're hearing from your friends and family and how their quarantine
Yeah.
is going.
Yeah, so almost all the citizens are staying at home, and then probably, for example, my parents will go out once a week to buy some food or vegetable in the supermarket, and then because the whole nation is now in shortage of masks. But it's also the government suggests people or tell people you must wear masks while going out, but people can't buy any masks anywhere. So the government now arranged like each family they can get 5 single-use masks for a whole week. And if you have 3 people, you have to reuse those masks again and again. And because all the gyms and swimming pools, they're closed, and so people like my father, he can only just walk around inside the community wearing the masks. And for students and pupils, the winter holiday has been further extended to March. But from March onwards, they will start their class online, because at the moment, all the Chinese teachers, they are learning how to give live lectures to their students. So we don't know when they will go back to school in person, but just to keep things going on. And the majority of people who try to work at home, and so probably a small fraction of people, they have to physically going out to work. And now, since after the Spring Festival, huge amount of people from rural area, they are traveling back to the city to work. So that poses some big challenge to cities like Shanghai and Beijing, whether they can continue control the virus well with such a big transmission of group of people coming into the city. So the rules now is anyone arriving this city like Shanghai, they have to self-quarantine for 14 days before going out. And then they have very strict record. So every time you go in and out of the apartment or any buildings, you have to write down. So I think the government is trying really hard. But the mostly are quite positive. The only negatives are from people in Wuhan. I heard one thing they say, it's too late to tell us that it's transmittable between people. It's too late to tell us we need to wear masks, and it's too late to build this hospital. But amazingly, the government built 2 hospitals which can accommodate over 2,000 people in 10 days.
How many people? How many people in Wuhan?
I don't know the exact figure, I'm afraid.
But it's over 5 million, right? It's a big town, big city.
Yeah, it's a major city, though not as big as Shanghai or Beijing, but they are, well, many of my friends and also some sailing friends, they live there as well.
Okay, well, let's talk about the Olympics, and we're all obviously all very concerned about it, and we're getting different information. The Olympics, of course, are in Tokyo, the 24th of July through the 9th of August, so that's just 5 months from now. And we were talking in the pre-show, in the tech check, Lily, about what's going on here with the Japanese, the WHO, the World Health Organization, and the IOC. And the IOC are being told, and the Japanese Organizing Committee, by the WHO, at least so far, that there's no case yet for canceling or postponing the Tokyo Olympics, and we certainly all hope that's the case. You seem to think this is going to be under control by then. Is that right? That the virus will have passed?
Yeah, the Olympics still 5 months away, and I've heard, though I'm not sure how scientific is that the virus will gradually disappear with the increase of temperature. So fingers crossed, hopefully it can be at least settled within a month in China, and then for the whole world as well.
Indeed. Well, yesterday I ran a piece on Sailing Illustrated on the main website, the headline 2020 Olympics. Can London, the host of the 2012 Games, be ready if the coronavirus prevents holding them in Tokyo this summer? Or will they split the sports up and have sailing, for example, in Long Beach and other sports around the world in venues that are ready and able to handle it right away? Now, this because there was a mayoral candidate in London yesterday or the day before now who said, oh, we can be ready to do this. And this was nothing really authoritative other than a guy campaigning for the mayor, and he's a leading candidate, saying we can be ready to do this and we should do it. And I'm hearing from senior serious people in the sporting world and the international federations, not just sailing, but in the IOC, that there is serious consideration being given to the highest level at the IOC over these continuing concerns. I'm reading from this article about having to move or delay or something the Olympics. And I went on and talked about it in this article because even though in the second paragraph reiterating that the Olympic organizers confirming their statement of last Thursday, a week ago, that the coronavirus will not stop the 2020 Games. Well, they have to say that, and I'm sure they will continue to say that. But we are hearing Rio just is not capable of putting this on, as I said in the third paragraph. And also you wonder if Paris could be ready, who are the 2024 hosts, or Los Angeles, the 2028 hosts. LA could probably do this, not quite at the drop of a hat, and probably
because the facilities are there.
Exactly. They have the existing, all the sports facilities having hosted the games and having all the universities and all the stuff there. So LA could probably do it. But that's a huge ask, as I said there in that fourth paragraph. Obviously complex and enormous logistics involved in such a move. Not to mention the daunting financial implications, yada, yada. Moreover, no pun intended, the World Health Organization, who's to say that London will be any safer than Tokyo in 5 months' time, or LA? And if you are a resident of the UK, would you want 11,000 plus athletes, the official number of expected athletes I see in Wikipedia for this summer's games is 11,091. Would you want all those athletes coming in from around into your country under the current coronavirus circumstance? What do you think, Julia?
I don't know. It would be hesitation on all sides, I think.
So if it's a problem, you wonder how moving it to someplace else really helps the problem. So
what we don't want to do is do what the cancellation of Atlanta did.
Well, exactly, and that's my point. Just going on, I won't read the rest of the article. You can read it on sailingillustrated.com. But I think the UK could take sailing and do it again at Weymouth. Probably Long Beach could do it. Probably Barcelona or Mallorca. There's probably lots of places that could be ready to hold the yachting Olympics. Likewise, other sports could probably be ready in other venues where they're commonly held, archery and track and field and so on. But what you say, well, what about the idea of the athletes, Lily, have been training for Enoshima and the conditions in Enoshima? Well, I made the point, we're sailors after all, and say, how many times have we gone to regatta and they say, oh, we never have weather like this, or you should have been here last year, right? Right, Lily?
I haven't been to Enoshima yet, so I've heard a lot of people talking about the venue, big waves, and sea breeze, sometimes being affected by typhoon, etc. It can be all kinds of wind or condition.
And that's the point, is that you have to be ready for just about anything as a sailor, and that's the nature of our sport. So, if they do have to split the games up or delay them a year, okay, I hope it doesn't happen. But as I said in the last paragraph, regardless, it's only fair to the athletes of all sports that the games somehow must go on. After training for 4 or likely many more, how many years did you train for the Olympics? For your gold medal in Weymouth?
I went back to train full time for London Olympics probably 1.5 years before.
But when did you start really aiming? When did you aim for the Olympics? When did you say
When I was
I want?
little.
How old?
When did you was little?
I remember probably 13 years old when I was watching Sydney Olympics at home. And my father just joked me, say, Lily, when will I see you competing at the Olympics? And when can I see you in front of the television? And at that time, I say to myself, I will try my very best to reach my goal.
And that's my point in this article, is that a lot of athletes have been training for 2 or even 3 quadrennia, 8 or 12 years, and it would be grossly unfair after training for all that time, or for a year and a half, whatever it is, and winning selection to represent their country. They deserve to have their day or week in the Olympic sun. God forbid, I say in that last paragraph, we have another 1980 when the then USA president and crouton-in-chief, Jimmy Carter, forced our National Olympic Committee, with some 60 other countries following suit, to boycott the Moscow Olympics over the USSR's invasion of Afghanistan. Not to mention who's in a war in Afghanistan now for 20 years, almost. The boycott had little effect on the Soviet war effort, dashed the Olympic hopes and dreams of many sailors and other athletes who never got a second chance, and resulted in the tit-for-tat boycott by the Soviets and their satellites of the next Olympics, the '84 Olympics in L.A. So that, just is never going to work. However, as we talked in the tech check, Lily, this is becoming a serious issue. South Korea, this is the Associated Press, the virus cases are ballooning in South Korea as outbreak shifts and spreads. And here's a graph from that AP article of the confirmed cases, and you can see just the step up from in the last week, less than a week. So there's all these people now have circulated out around the world, and there are people, at least in this country, who are now getting it, and other countries who have not been to China, and they're not even aware if they've been in contact with people from China or from people from the cruise ships and so on. And also, just before we went to air, and thanks Jean-Pierre Kekens for sending this to me, but there was an article by Bloomberg, the Bloomberg News Service, about well, it's I won't bore you, but its article paints a very, very grim picture for this whole thing, and let's just hope that it doesn't happen and that we can do the Olympics. And if not, they should figure out, they've got the number one thing they have to do, and I'm sure they know this, they've got to protect the athletes, not only health-wise, but so that they, Lily, can have their Olympics. I mean, they could say, have a world championship and call that the Olympics, something, right?
Yeah.
In each class.
Yeah.
How would you feel if just before 2012 you couldn't go to Weymouth because of, something?
I guess I will be heartbroken.
Exactly.
Yeah, you're right. Every athlete, so including sailors, they need to work for years and years of time before able to sail or perform in the Olympics. Yeah.
Yes.
So I know you want to get to bed, and it's almost 10 o'clock, almost 2200 there. But tell us a little bit about what's going on here at the RYA's Dinghy Show at Alexandra Palace, at Ali Pali here, not this weekend, but next weekend.
Yeah, I will be in London for the RYA Dinghy Show and launching Ben Ainslie's book on behalf of Ben Ainslie, because he's obviously racing in Sydney for SailGP, so he couldn't come in person. And then the publisher invited me to launch this book for him. So hopefully I can see many of the British people in London next Saturday.
And that's at Alexander Palace. It's the RYA Dinghy Show, and you'll be there. Will you have your own book as well? So if somebody wants to get your book with an autograph?
Yeah, for sure. I will be around for both days in next weekend. And if anyone want my books, feel free to come to this stand and you can buy it. And then the editor will give me a message that I can easily to sign my autograph.
Cool. So again, that's at the RYA Dinghy Show at Alexander Palace. The Alley Pally, as the Brits call it. We did a Formula One launch there one time with of one of our cars, one of the West McLaren Mercedes cars, with the Spice Girls.
Wow.
Wow, to tell you what, it was something else. That's when I knew I was in the right sport. I'd never seen anything like that for a launch of an America's Cup movie.
No.
Hey, a lot of questions on here. Do you have a couple more minutes? Can we ask you some questions?
No problem.
Julia, you want to start?
Yeah. The first one here is, are you going to broadcast from the Laser Radio Worlds tomorrow?
Not really, because I'm in Southampton, and probably in future years, I will be very happy and honored if I can do more broadcasting for laser and radio, as well as all the Olympic classes. And the fact I really, really enjoy doing the commentator job last year for SailGP. But unfortunately, the Chinese team's being pulled out, so I will miss that terribly.
Oh, yeah, that's right. And Andrew Pindar says, I wonder what Lily might think about the future of China and Chinese sailors in the likes of the ocean race, the America's Cup, and SailGP.
You've got a SailGP China team. How about the America's Cup?
Year.
How about the America's Cup or the ocean race?
I think one of the biggest challenge for any Chinese team to do those professional event or sailing regattas is that our federation wouldn't allow any Olympic sailors or any sailors who's sailing the Olympic classes to combine their professional sailing league, so to speak. So if, for example, we train for the Olympic classes, whether that's for the Olympic Games or National Games, we have to stay with the team all the time. So we can't really sail like any other Western sailors, like so for example, Ben Ainslie, who did 4 America's Cup campaign alongside his Olympic campaign. So that's impossible for Chinese sailor. And that also affects that. So if we do have Chinese team for those professional sailing events, then we will struggle to put together a good team constituted by a lot of elite sailers in China, because like all the good sailors, they are only allowed to do Olympic sailing. Not any other events. Well, so that's, I feel, something need to change for the future.
It's like Blair Tuke and Pete Burling in the 49er have just won their sixth world champ. I think it was sixth world championship in the 49er class, and they're of course in the midst of an America's Cup campaign. So it does, other countries and other sailors can do it, but it's tough, and of course the systems are a little different. Well, what else, Julia?
There's a thread. Pedro Foiling Sailor said the top Chinese sailor in each class should be given a spot in the 2020 Olympics. That would seem as fair and reasonable, and by all competitors. But John Emmett and several other people have said that the number of athletes is so specific that would exceed the number that the IOC would accept. So.
Well, that's the other problem, is that what happens if they, for some reason, it seems grossly unfair to hold the Olympics in Tokyo, if that's the decision, and then not let athletes from certain countries come because of the fear of the virus. Have you heard any discussion about that, Lily?
No, I haven't. Sorry.
That would be horrible, too.
Yeah.
Obviously. Yeah. Julia?
Clark Chapin says Wuhan has a population of over 11 million.
Wow.
The 9th most populous Chinese city.
Wow. Hamish Ross, our good friend, and he's really Dr. Hamish Ross. He's a lawyer, but he is the Sailing Illustrated's historian. Thank you, Hamish, he's helping with these this day in history thing. In fact, that segment I did at the top of the show was another Hamish Ross production, or at least the idea was. Hamish said, "Did you know that the Tokyo Olympics have been canceled before?" And I did know that, and I think, Julia, you and I talked about that the other day. The only other Olympics which have been canceled were the 1940 Olympics, just at the start of World War II, and they happened to be scheduled for Tokyo. Did you know that, Lily?
Yeah, I heard a little bit about that. Actually, there's some Chinese writers put that piled together an article and then trying to compare these two things together, and then sort of trying also to be prepared that that might be a possibility.
Well, and Jody Shields is saying, and congratulations, Jody, on the gig you've gotten. Do you know Jody Shields, Lily?
Yes, of course. The commentator job that I was doing for SailGP last year.
That's right.
We were together in London studio.
Yes. That's right. You were doing that at Whisper Studios, weren't you? And so you know Jody.
Correct.
Well, he has now got another gig with SailGP. Maybe you know this. He is going to be in Sydney, at least for that event, and commentating for SailGP, doing out on the water and commentating for the SailGP app. So, so the app, which is kind of cool, apparently is not going to. I think you can switch to the probably the broadcast commentary, but then he is going to be giving an up close and personal VIP, and you know he is so great. And he's so much fun. We had him on the show. He is one of the, as Baton Rouge said, we have cool people. Our sport, Lily, is, and I'm sure you would agree, Julia certainly agrees, is so full, right, Julia, of cool people.
Absolutely.
And this show really is about cool people, and you may be one of the coolest we've ever had on the show.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments, Julia?
Josh Chosey says maybe they could split the Olympics between Paris and London, and Lori Kalkinen says if they save a spot for Chinese sailor, then other sports will want the same, and that can't be accommodated just physically.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of problems with any of these options, but it seems to me if they're going to not run it in Tokyo, either they've got to move it back to London, or they've got to delay it for a year. But who knows that London's going to be any safer than Tokyo? Or do you want to fly on planes and bring all these people together? I don't know. Okay, we'll see. Ali D. Nas is saying it's so sad for the competitors who are losing motivation and missing events as a result of all this. That's a good point. Lily, you brought that up too, and it's something we don't think about it. What the psychological impact is on sailors, right?
Yeah, I remember whenever I have a period without any racing or going to any events, then I gradually lose my fire. I just have no motivation to train as hard as I can. So I sort of understand how my teammates in China feels now. And at the moment, we are yet to know whether they can go to Parma at the end of March, at the beginning of April. If not, the earliest time they can go aboard and do an international event will be April, on the basis if the virus is controlled well.
Well, a couple other comments here. John Emmett, who I know you know, and by the way, is he a good coach?
Yeah, very good coach.
Was he your 2012 coach?
Yeah, he coached me for 2012 as well as 2016 to Olympic campaign.
Well, he's a good guy, and he's often on here. John is saying the Chinese flag is still flying here in Sandringham. So he is.
Oh, really?
He's in Sandringham for the Laser Radial Worlds, which start tomorrow, I guess, or today. It's tomorrow. It's Saturday.
Tomorrow.
So yeah, it's Saturday there now. So they start, and also there was another comment here I wanted to grab, Julia. It was from Jody Shields. It's a good way to end this. He said, "Thanks for that video, Lily." He said, "I'll do less sitting from now on." and
I'm
more.
so glad it could be useful for some of my sailing friends.
Well, when Julia and I saw it, I said, Julia, maybe that's what we should be doing instead of doing a silly live webcast like this twice a week. We should, or at least on the other 3 days or 5 days, we should be doing Lily's exercises.
Yes.
I'm serious. We should. Her exercises are simple, can be done at home, and
Yeah.
obviously good for you and
Yes.
good for your knee. Julia's knees are not correct, and your shoulders are not correct. Lily, I'm sorry to hear it, and let us know how that all goes. Anything else, Julia?
Oh yes, my just a regular comment. Be sure to read the comments because there are well over 100 of them, and there are lots of different opinions and expressions of respect for you, and it'll make you feel good.
Well, and it's true. It's not just for everybody should read the comments.
Yes, absolutely.
And by the way, to those of you who are watching in replay, we leave I said this on the show the other day, and a lot of people didn't realize this. We leave the comments open. A lot of sites close it because they're afraid idiots will go on there and say stupid things. Will troll, as they say in the online, as you know, in the social media world, Lily. But we leave them open, but we check them every day. We go through the past comments, and Julia is very good at cutting somebody that makes a personal attack or name calling or tell me what, Julia, of coarse language.
There's another thread here. Jay Hanfield said, "Thank you, Lily. As a sailor who's legally deaf, I thank you for speaking up on how sailing can free you from all your burdens."
Who said that?
Jay Hanfield.
Great. I didn't know Jay was legally deaf. Well, okay, anybody else? I see Commodore Glidewell as our local Commodore. Jean-Pierre Keekins has a question. What would be an ideal single-handed... Okay, this is a good question. We'll end with this because it's been an hour, and we'll let Lily go to bed because it is after 10 o'clock over in England. And she, by the way, is in Southampton on the south coast of the UK. Jean-Pierre Keekins, who's in Montreal. Do you know Jean-Pierre? He's a youth sailing guru and a laser guru and other classes. He's got a couple of kids that are very active, and he runs a Facebook page about youth sailing and dinghies. It's a cool page. Jean-Pierre Keekins. He's Belgian by birth and lives in Montreal, and he's been on the show as well. Question: what would be an ideal single-handed dinghy for the typical physique of Chinese female athletes, max 60 kilograms and max maybe 1.7 meters in height? Is the laser radial, is that the ideal single-handed? But it's not, is it? What would be better, do you think, for smaller statured people?
I think Europe will be a better single-handed women's boat for the Chinese figure, because I'm one of the rare Chinese that has tall in height, and then I quite struggle to buy clothes the right size for myself.
How
but
tall?
I have no problem to buy it in the UK.
How tall are you?
176.
And how much did you weigh when you were competing in?
I
in
weigh
Weymouth?
about 70.
70 kilos.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, so you're taller than the most of the other Asian women, but also for small. I mean, the laser and the laser radial are tough on you, right? And you think the Europe's a better boat for smaller statured people?
For Europe, at least you can customize your mast as well as your sail to fit to your weight. So it's less physique than laser radial, whereas laser radial is it's one design. So gradually nowadays we can see that more and more female sailors are stronger and stronger, and then sort of developing towards the men's size.
Well, there's a question here, and maybe John can answer it as well. John Emmett, who is still down at the Royal Sandringham Yacht Club, where the laser radial is. The 4.7. Have you sailed a 4.7 before we leave that topic?
I haven't sailed 4.7 before, but probably 4.7 could be suitable. But because of the ratio with the sail and the boat, probably it doesn't feel so efficient to sail.
Yeah, it's not so lively.
Or not so exciting. Yeah, whereas Europe, I think it's very elegant boat for
Yeah.
women to sail.
Elegant,
Yeah.
the Europe dinghy, which was an Olympic class for what, 2 or 3 Olympics. Have you done any match racing?
No, I haven't. I only done some team racing when I was sailing Optimist.
Team racing is big in the Opti, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, do some match racing. It's cool. One other question I think we should do, and Steve Groover is asking, were the Chinese sailors banned from competing at these World Championships in Melbourne? Were they banned from competing by China or the regatta organizers, or who made that decision that the Chinese sailors could or would not go?
I think as soon as the coronavirus outbreak, the Australian immigration made the ban that no more Chinese can enter this country, can enter Australia. So it's not the Chinese sailing team banned them or the Australian.
It was just the Australian immigration
organizer banned them. It's just because of the strict rules of entry.
Yes.
John, I guess we have to ask this question too, because it's the laser class, the ILCA dinghy, ILCA International Laser Class. We're going to talk about that court case in a minute and that jury decision after we let Lily go to bed. The composite, John Emmett is saying the composite lower mast, that is the carbon, they're switching from the aluminum tube for the lower section of the laser mast, as you know. It's going to be carbon. It's now available in carbon. And the lower mast in the radial will bring the weight down, John Emmett says. Is that right?
Oh, yeah, probably.
Okay. Lily, Bravo Zulu, thank you very much indeed.
Yeah.
Really appreciate you having you on.
It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Julian. Thank you for everyone who's watching the Sailing Illustrated show now. Thanks for your support and hearing what we are chatting now.
Thank you. Go back and you're getting a lot of thumbs up and hugs and kisses, and we really, really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Take good care. Bravo Zulu. Thank you.
Yeah.
Ciao.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, what a great sailor and a cool person, right, Julia?
Oh, absolutely.
Cool people.
Absolutely.
No question. Okay, we move on here to, that's Bravo Zulu is the way I wanted to end it for Lily. And, of course, she, the gold medalist, if you're just tuning in late, most of you will know this. She was the gold medalist in the laser radial class in 2012 in Weymouth in the UK, and the first Asian to win a gold of male or female Asian to win a gold in a dinghy. There have been a couple of an Asian or two that have won gold in the windsurfer class in the sailing. Okay, let's have a look. I just want to say, Julia, I just got a text from John Sangmeister saying, "Your coolest interview yet." Mm-hmm. I think Lily's left us. I've got a still shot of her up there in the overhead, but your coolest interview yet. Thank you, John Sangmeister. Appreciate that very much. Okay, Bravo Zulu, and I like my Bravo Zulu music with this slide.
Yes.
But this Bravo Zulu is well deserved. Speaking of cool people, and this blew up on my Facebook page over the last few days. I didn't get this up on the show Tuesday, but I wanted to bring it up today. This is this great Swedish match racing team. Remember when we had dinner with them over at Bruce Monroe's?
Yep.
And these gals have this classic. Somebody sent me this picture. I don't remember. I guess I saw it they've been accepted for they were here for the Nations Cup last year. And this is Anna Osling's team. She, the middle in this shot, from Sweden, obviously. And they have now been accepted, and they're a terrific team, male or female, into the Gold Cup, the I think it's still called the Argo Bermuda Gold Cup match racing circuit, which, along with the Congressional Cup, really are the granddaddies of these events. Well, this is the picture I saw in the press release, and that event has also joined the World Match Racing Tour, but rejoined it, as has Congressional Cup. And, there's been a lot of comment, Ali D. Nas and others of you making fun of these pictures of men and now women who have their black shirts on and fold their arms. There's at least a hint of some smiles on these gals.
Yeah.
Well, Anna commented, and then James Pleasance, who was on the show, he's the executive director of the WMRT. Remember, Julie, when he was on the show?
Yes.
So he sent along some pictures and said, well, how about this?
Yeah.
Now, isn't that, I mean, just compare
Yes.
and contrast.
Yes.
Why don't we, as John Sangmeister, speaking of John, likes to say, have a Hobie day? And that's
Yes.
how we should portray our sport. Why do we portray our sport like this? Why do the organizers encourage or force or require or coerce sailors into posing like this? We look like croutons. Let's have this. I mean, how much better is that? These people, obviously, they look, the sunglasses are cool. They look Swedish. They look cool. They look like they're having a Hobie day.
Yes.
And then James Pleasant sent along some other pictures. And, okay, maybe this is a winning shot. They've already won, but maybe not. Maybe they're just pre-regatta, same team at one of the regattas last summer up in Marstrand. Mm-hmm. And here's another example. You can be creative. You don't have to have, okay, this is a bit goony, but they got their sponsor branding. They're having fun, and it's young. I wouldn't think to do something like that, would you?
No.
but you see it all the time on Instagram, or Insta as the kids call it. And you see this kind of, let's have some fun. This sport is fun. Let's stop looking like we've got, a bad case of, I won't say it. And it's not the lady's fault, just like I don't think it was the fault of the kids, Jeffrey Peterson and co., that down there at the regatta in Australia a few weeks ago. Okay, enough of that rant. Come on, let's have a Hobie day. Let's have fun. Bravo Zulu to them, and they were good-natured, sent me those pictures. James Pleasant, thanks to you as well. Speaking of the ILCA, the ILCA, the International Laser Class Association, and this been going on since 2013, this law case where the designer, Bruce Kirby, has sued, and we had sued some of the licensees, sued them for copyright. Well, a jury in Connecticut, in fact, as many of you will know, has found that racing sailboat maker Laser Performance. Remember when we had Farzid?
Yes.
What's his full name? I'll think of his name on the show and explaining his side of the case when they were quarreling with World Sailing. But in any event, that Laser Performance has been willfully ripping off the trade. This is an article on the Law 360 website via Sailing Anarchy. It was on the front page of SA Today. But this jury found that they had been willfully ripping off the trademark of the original designer of the laser dinghy and awarded him, that is Bruce Kirby, $6.8 million in damages.
Yeah.
And after deliberating for a day following a 4-day trial, the New Haven is a big city in southern Connecticut, where Yale University is, on Friday found in favor of Bruce Kirby and his Bruce Kirby Inc., who alleged that after he ended an agreement to have Laser Performance sell his design, the company continued selling boats with his name and mark on them. The jury found that Laser Performance, legally known as a yada, yada, yada. But they also, awarded Kirby some more money, and we'll talk more about that on Tuesday when I have a special guest coming here who's pretty knowledgeable about all this. So this has been going on. You see in the last paragraph since 2013.
Yes.
Now, will this get appealed? Everyone tells me it will, and several lawyers I've talked to said yes, they expect it will.
Farzad's Rastegar.
That's it, Farzad Rastegar. He was a great guest. He was on for a long time, and a lot of people said that he shined us. But he volunteered to come on and did a great job. I thought at least he came on.
Yes.
Again, that's all via Sailing Anarchy. It was on the Law 360 website. Now, where's been World Sailing in all this? They have, again, done nothing to sort out that's not true. They've been behind the scenes doing some things. They should have sorted this out a long time ago. And they have just been incompetent. I'm sorry. And the president, the croutonic Kim Anderson, has got to go. This guy is running for re-election in November. He is running around the world trying to convince on money, World Sailing's money, which of course they're seriously in debt. And they're hoping like hell the Olympics do not get canceled or postponed because they need the television money. They're still going to start the next quadrennium way under budget because they get the $15 million in TV money from the IOC, $15 million US. They're already $3 million in the hole and they're spending that future revenue. They borrowed some money against the World Sailing Trust, which they're not supposed to do.
And there's a possibility there will not be a world sailing in Olympics.
Well, and if there's no Olympics,
Yeah.
then there's no TV revenue, at least not right away. So,
Right.
You can't count your chickens before they hatch. Mr. Anderson's got to go. He's run the place into the hole, and he needs to have someone like Gerardo Seeliger or someone else who is running, and Gerardo announced on this show. He's got to be replaced. Okay, we're an hour and 15 in. We'll get through the America's Cup segment because there's some really interesting news. This was a video from a day or so ago released by ETNZ. It's a really cool video because they have now shipped their boat from Auckland. It's on its way to Cagliari in Sardinia, where this first ACWS, America's Cup World Series Regatta, will be held at the end of April. Have a look at this cool video.
So we've just had a busy few weeks packing everything up, and the boat's just heading out now and on its way down to Tauranga to jump on a ship. We're going to skip out half the motorway to keep everyone safe, and she'll be 2 months on the over to Italy.
Our process now is to take the rig off the truck and lift it up and put it on top of the yacht, and that's how we're going to ship it as one piece. And like all good Kiwis, it's heading off overseas on its overseas experience.
We want a couple of taglines on. No, well, couldn't have asked for a better day to load, but she's in one piece and it all fit together nicely like a bit of Lego, so all good right now.
We'll pick up the boat and rig together as one package. We'll do a CG check, just to make sure it lifts evenly for the ship loading.
It's a bit oversized, so makes things a bit more awkward for all the guys on the wharf here loading boats like this, but it's something we've got used to. I think now we're pretty happy with the way it's all gone this morning, and onwards towards loading.
55 days she'll be on a ship, and she will do 3 transit ships on that voyage. So I'm really looking forward to seeing her over in Europe and look forward to sailing her again.
So those of you who know Kiwis or lived in New Zealand as we have, or I have on and off because of the Cup, being down there in 2000 and 2003, you know that the OE stands for overseas experience, and a lot of Kiwi kids between high school and college, or sometimes even after college, go for their OE, and it's kind of a rite of passage, isn't it, Julia?
Yes. Australians do too.
And Australians as well. They get off the island. There is also a very cool photo essay of their training boat. I still think this may be the Cup-winning move. These guys were really smart to build their training boat at this stage, and this is the Hawk. This is their sub. It can't be longer than 12 meters, so I don't know how long it really is. 12 meters, of course, is just 39.37 feet. But this boat was just launched, knowing that this other boat, their main boat, AC-75, is going to be on a ship to Europe for 2 months. So they've got this boat to train on. Then, and this is a purpose-built boat that looks and acts and feels like an AC-75, and it's out zooming around the harbor from day one since it was launched a couple weeks ago. The Hawk, and Richard Gladwell has put up a terrific photo essay on sail-world.com, and I will put it on my Facebook page, if not on the main website yet this afternoon. New York Yacht Club has announced a new sponsor, and Julie, if you look on the bows of the trimaran here in the studio, you can point to it right up there over your shoulder. The BMW Rondelles, right on the bow of all 3 of those. They were a sponsor, and you can now see the BMW Rondelle on the mainsail. It's actually been there since December. I think Talbot Wilson sent a picture and said, well, that's been up there for a long time. Well, that's true, but it just got announced yesterday that BMW have joined Parker and Airbus and Helly Hansen and a few others as a main sponsor, along TSI as well, of New York Yacht Club's American Magic. And I think that's cool. It's
Which is nice, yeah.
It's obviously a premium automotive brand.
Right.
One of, a handful, if not, we all think of Lexus and I guess now Tesla here, and we think of Cadillac, but certainly BMW and Mercedes.
Yes.
It's great to have a cool sponsor like BMW continuing in the sport. Now they've been in the sport for quite some time, and not just with us with Oracle Racing, but also what was then BMW Oracle Racing, and for a while Oracle BMW Racing, OBR and BOR. But they've also done a fair bit of other sponsorship, particularly in Europe, at the Royal Thames Yacht Club and some stuff here and there. Cool stuff. Nice to have them back and continuing, for that matter, in the game. Now, New York also released this video today featuring their design chief. Have a look.
You do wake up sometimes with an idea on your head, or suddenly it just comes out of nowhere. You want to go fast, running to the office and draw it up and see if it works. It's always in my head, and then it goes from my head to the computer. And then obviously you try to test it and make sure it works. It usually doesn't. That's what makes it interesting. Only sometimes it works.
What I do on board, is something new to our sport. Controlling the dynamics of the foils and the rudder in order to make the boat fly above the water is something that we've only been doing for the last 10 years or so, and I didn't seek it out necessarily.
Creating a design environment in which creativity is the main objective. With creativity comes change, and with change come new ways to improve the boat.
Have the willingness to fail and learn and adapt and update and improve everything as you go every day, and try and make things better and easier for everybody while you're doing it. I'm excited for what the future holds for us.
Talking about cool people, there are a couple right there, and we appreciate that video from New York Yacht Club's American Magic. Speaking of cool people, this guy was interviewed. This is the performance analyst, I think is his actual title, with Luna Rossa Prada Pirelli. It's Marco Capitani. And he was interviewed by Fare Vela, and it was published today. And I thank very much Michele Tagnazzi, who sent a link to the article. I have not, I got it before we went to air, and I haven't had time to put it up, but I will. It's originally, obviously, in Italian, Fare Vela being one of the leading sailing magazines or websites in Italy, in Europe for that matter.
They do great stories,
actually. Don't they?
Yeah,
Indeed.
they do.
So I read it in, if you use Google's Chrome browser, do you use Google's Chrome browser?
No.
Chrome now has auto-trans using Google Trans, so you don't even have to muck around and click on other buttons. It'll just say, do you want to see any website that is in Italian? Do you want Google Chrome to automatically translate it? Mm-hmm. And it does, but that's just a little plug for Google. But nonetheless, you can get a translation, and I'll probably run a link to both. I'll do an English version for this interview. Julia.
Yeah, Google has one.
Well, Chrome is Google's, and they've got the Google translation website or the app or the whatever they call it.
I use that on Firefox.
But the point is, on Chrome, you don't even have to do it now. It's just automatico.
That's great.
And it is great. Okay, this is a video that now we're still in the Cup here segment, but this is Ineos Team UK's video that they've just released, and there was good stuff coming out from these teams. Have a look.
We've been here in Cagliari for about a month now. It's been a fantastic period for the team. Made a lot of improvements getting RB1 out on the water. Sailors are loving being out on this boat, and for our designers, engineers, shore team, seeing it all come together. It's a fantastic period for the team, and then of course we're looking forward to racing here in Cagliari in the end of April.
At the swim.
It does, doesn't it? Our mics are up, so don't say anything bad. That's a nice video, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
It is. Okay, full marks to Ben Ainslie and co. for that. There is no second. They're both training in Calgary, but Ben now moves his operation, at least for a couple of weeks, to Sydney because they have bought the British team in Sail GP, and those teams are all down there now getting ready for the regatta, which starts a week from today, next weekend. And nice photo, obviously, in front of the Sydney Opera House.
Mhm.
And there's the first time I've seen the branding of their new Sail GP, the rebranded British Sail GP team. And the other teams are practicing, and it'll be very interesting, I think, to see if Ben, who are, he's got his team from most, not all, but most of whom are from his Ineos Team UK. And in fact, I think all are by now. I think they're going to be tough. I think they're going to be hard to beat. We'll see Tommy Slingsby and Nathan Outteridge and co. And we'll see if Rome Kirby's U.S. team, because of the addition of Kimo Worthington.
Oh, that's right.
As the manager. And we'll start to focus in on Sail GP next Tuesday because, as you know, it is a week from today, Friday. It's Saturday down there now, but the regatta it's Friday, Saturday, I think. Remind me in the comments if it's Saturday, Sunday. But here is a video now from that team training in Sydney. Have a look at this.
It's an amazing place to sail on the harbour. It's one of my favourite places to sail anywhere in the world. A day like that in these boats doesn't get any better than that.
Okay, well, that's Sail GP, which is the 28th and 29th. Today's the 21st, so it's next Friday and Saturday. I was right. And most of those regattas have been Friday, Saturday. One of them was Saturday, Sunday. I can't remember which one. And we'll see. They obviously are starting in Sydney next weekend. Then they're coming to San Francisco, then to New York, then to Cowes Isle of Wight in August, then to Denmark, to Copenhagen, because of the new Danish team. And then they haven't announced the final, whether they're in Marseille or in Spain. Most of us think it's going to be in Spain because of the new Spanish team, and we'll be looking at that team as well as the introduction of the Danish team next week. Okay, that's Sail GP, and it's really an America's Cup segment. But finally, the Long Beach Yacht Club's Stars Plus Stripes, Team USA.
Yes.
Another week's gone by, and not a peep. It's just crickets, sadly.
Yeah.
Okay, question of the day. Come on, you got to like that music too.
Mm-hmm.
Question of the day, is McDonald's as a sponsor good for the America's Cup? And I had people come on my Facebook page. I made a kind of a off-the-cuff, light-hearted comment about BMW being, now that's a proper sponsor, when I put the announcement of New York Yacht Club's new sponsor on the air on my Facebook page. And I made a kind of a wisecrack about McDonald's. And a couple of you objected, and I understand it. You say, well, I'm being snobby and I'm arrogant and it's making our sport sound elitist. Well, that's not at all. It's not it at all. I love McDonald's. I've been eating at McDonald's all my life, especially their breakfast stuff. Not sure I've had a Big Mac anytime soon. Have you recently? Have you?
Oh, I like Big Macs. I
you?
haven't had one recently. I'm trained on In-N-Out.
In-N-Out burgers. Well, we got a new Shake Shack that we haven't been to.
No.
But people say that both the East Coast and West Coast say that In-N-Out's better than Shake Shack. I don't know.
Yeah.
But anyway, I don't mean to demean McDonald's.
No.
I think for the New Zealand Emirates Team New Zealand, it's probably a good sponsorship. Probably get families across the country. There'll be McDonald's New Zealand promotions of the America's Cup. It'll probably be quite good for the Cup in New Zealand. What it's not good for is Bruno Trouble, famously the guy that started the Louis Vuitton Cup, and said about things in Bermuda and catamarans and so on. It has, I can't remember now exactly what he said, but it has the, you don't want to downgrade, demean the brand value of the America's Cup, because it is a prestigious event. It's a prestigious trophy. It's the oldest trophy in international sports. And some would argue, including me, that you want to attach to it high-end sponsors like Moet, like BMW, not fast-moving consumer goods, low-end or fast food chains, because it does. Look at this image, and and the guy's holding the cup without white gloves because he doesn't want to look to be frou-frou. And some of you have said, well, that's not right. And I ask you, as the question of the day, is this right or not? Is it bad for the America's Cup itself, not the trophy itself, but the event, or is it perfectly fine? And by the way, today, and I had to go look at this because I didn't believe this. It was on CNN, and as you know, President Trump calls CNN fake news, CNN. I had to go back and check it, and apparently it is true. McDonald's is now selling candles, at least here in the U.S., announced today that they have the scents of the ingredients of a Big Mac. There is a ketchup candle, a sesame seed bun candle. Oh, I'm not kidding. See over there, there's a pickles, the green one's a pickles candle.
Yeah.
I can't even see the fine print on these.
The far right is cheese.
Oh, is it cheese?
Mm-hmm. And fresh beef.
Okay. Well, I got to go get some of these. I'm going to have them sitting right here so that when this question of the day comes up,
yes,
we can always refer to my croutons and to my McDonald's candles. And I want to burn them and see if they really do smell like that.
Yeah.
Right?
How do you get one?
Now, there were some crude comments also on my Facebook page about other candles. And I would appreciate those of you who made those comments, and a couple of them were pretty crude. We'll take those off before Julia or before I do. It's on my personal page. Come on, this is a family show, and my Facebook page does not tolerate coarse language, personal attacks, and croutonicism, except from me. I'm the only one who can be croutonic. Okay, let's wrap this turkey up. Reminder that the Newport Ensenada race is April 24th through the 26th. Entries are growing steadily. I don't know if they're going to set a record. Certainly, they're not going to set a record for the whole period, because there used to be 300, 400, 500 boats, and I don't think they'll get anywhere near that. But I hope they start to build this race again. John Sangmeister, the aforementioned famously cool John Sangmeister, is the entry chair, and he's trying to build it up and has asked us to keep trying to plug for him. Not trying, keep plugging the race.
It is a fun race, though.
Well, yeah, it is a cool race. It's an overnight coastal race here for those of you who are not in SoCal, Southern, haven't sailed it before. On Tuesday, I'm very pleased to report we've got a return. In fact, maybe the only person who's been in studio twice, an in-studio guest, but with us next Tuesday is the famously cool John Bertrand, the Olympic silver medalist in 1984, the Olympic coach, America's Cup veteran. He's just back from Melbourne. He is coming here and is going to tell us everything about what was going on in Melbourne, and not just in the laser class where he has been coaching, but he's also helping to coach some other Americans. And I think I just talked to him on the phone briefly yesterday, and he's got some very cool insight, Julia. I think you're going to like this, as will all of our viewers. Mm-hmm. And that's about it for us. Julia will stop here next Tuesday. John Bertrand on Olympics, lasers, and more in studio. Let's stop there and see if there's any other comments. The question of the day is getting some responses. Paul Homchick saying, it's perfectly fine for McDonald's to sponsor ETNZ, though I would be uncomfortable to see a McDonald's Cup challenger. Okay? But I'm not worried Mickey D would regard that as a waste as a waste of money. Mm-hmm. Well said, Paul. John Schaefer is on, the International Man of Mystery. Bill Wingrove, corporate value of LV, $13.6 billion. Corporate value of McDonald's, $100 billion. Look at that.
Right.
Okay, well, that's fair enough. Rob Fry thinks I'm being croutonic for even making an issue, even bringing it up. Well, it's interesting to see what people think. Jeff Waller, and thanks for that, Rob. You may well be right. Jeff Waller, you can get your cheeseburger in the drive-thru in your new BMW. John Sangmeister, a vulgar beach cat event smelling of French fries, The word cheap was in there, John. He's quoting Bruno Troublé. A vulgar beach cat event smelling of French fries and I think cheap sunscreen was the actual quote. But thank you for that. Fabian Haraldson, you see that, Julia? Wants to know, vegan, will there be a McKiwi?
Yeah.
Vegan and all. We'll see. Blake Middleton saying the Heaven Can Wait, the charity sailing regatta Facebook page. We'll plug that. We'll go look at that, Blake. Thank you, sir. Is that it? Any other pressing remarks?
I guess not. There are some interesting remarks, and I would encourage everybody to read them.
Here's a final comment. Speaking of our guest, I want to thank her again. That was just great to have.
Yes, she was.
It was terrific. But John Emmett replying to Steve up above, he's saying it was a great shame none of the Chinese sailors were already out in Melbourne training when the virus lockdown happened.
Yes.
Like sailors in many other countries were. They were already there. So, okay. Thank you, Julia. Thank you, Lily. Thank you, John Emmett, for helping to tee that up. Julia, anything to add?
Well, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.
Indeed. And thanks to you, Julia, for all you do as my co-host and landlady.
Yes.
I think landlord's fine, isn't it?
Of course.
Is that a masculine word?
Who cares?
Exactly. My landlord, the owner of the building in which the Beach Street Yacht Club and our Sailing Illustrated TV studios are located. And if you're so inclined, go over and become a patron via Patreon at sailingillustrated.com. Thanks for the videos and the audio and the pictures for today's show. Hope you have a great weekend, and we hope you tune in next Tuesday, same time, same channel. In the meantime, sail fast, sail safe, and have fun. Ciao. Bye.
Bye.